morning, everyone. Am I using the right mic? No.
Yeah.
It's on?
Yeah, no, I just wondered whether this records as well.
Yeah.
Does it record? Anyway, how many of you were not watching the film earlier today? Everybody was watching the just two.
What?
You
You can leave.
That's because I made a rather lengthy introduction of Fernando Meirelles earlier today. And he's going to kill me if I repeat all that again. He was so bored with it. So instead, we will move straight to the discussion. I'm sure you have plenty of questions. The way that we thought we could organize the session today is that I raise the first questions and start a conversation with Fernando. This will last between 20 minutes, half an hour. Then we're going to show some cut-out clips of his film, and then he will talk about these clips a little bit, and we will open to questions for the audience. Okay, so let's get started. Get the right script here. The first thing that I wanted to ask you is about the focus on two popes. We know that there have been a number of films about popes, so I wonder whether there is a papal genre in the cinema, so to say. The films that immediately spring to your mind are Fernando Meirelles' Habemus Papam. There is also the series by Paolo Sorrentino. So are you kind of stealing an Italian genre for yourself and appropriating it and turning it into something else? So how do you locate a film in terms of a genre?
Well, actually, it's working. Is it? Yeah, it is. Well, I never thought about that. That was a genre. As I said in the other room, that I decided to read the script. They offered me a film on Pope Francis, and I decided to read the script because of Pope Francis. When we started the film, until 2 months ago, the name of the film was The Pope. It was really the story of Pope Francis, and Benedict was the much better. Yeah, well, it was a film on Pope Francis, and Benedict was just a supporting character. And then, because of the performance, when we watched the film, we decided to change the name. But we never thought about the genre of films on popes. But I did watch, some films. As much as I could find, films on popes. Because we needed to see all the ritual, how they portray the conclave and costumes and art direction. So I was very interested, and they're all very formal. And watching all those very formal films, that's when I was very sure that I should make a very different film, very intimate, very personal, not formal at all. That was my goal from the beginning.
Thank you. There is also, in terms of genre, there is also two kinds of approaches in the film. One of them is that of so to say, a standard action film, but on the other hand, there is so much documentary in the film, in the way that you approach locations, that you approach languages. I counted the languages there. I think it's Spanish, Italian, Latin, German, English.
Bit of French.
A little bit of French.
2 or 3 lines in Portuguese.
Yeah, there are a few cardinals who speak Portuguese. How do you combine those two approaches, and how do you make them work in terms of an action film? So trying to document a certain reality, and you can see that in particular the footage on Argentina. And then how do you combine that with an editing pace that is much more audience-oriented and making it work as an action film?
Yeah, well, my goal from the beginning, as I was saying, is to make it very intimate yet very real. So we had this idea of bringing a lot of footage for the film. So every time you see, not every time, but some of the moments where you see St. Peter's Square, we used footage, but we also had to because we weren't allowed to shoot inside St. Peter's Square, so we had to create our own St. Peter's Square, green screen and all that. But we always wanted to make it really feel like footage, like real image, and even in our big sets. I mean, we were shooting in amazing palaces and villas and the Sistine Chapel that we built in Cinecittà. We had those amazing sets, and there's always a very challenging situation. When you go to a beautiful location, you tend to find out that's the angle, and you put your camera, and then you put your actors, but you're trying to picture the place, you're trying to show the space, and we really tried to avoid that. It was not a film about the space, about palaces, it was really a film about two people. So it's very difficult because you get to, I mean, who films here knows that you get to a place and you say that's the angle, so that's the one we wouldn't use. That was always the challenge, was how to make a $40 million films feel like a $3 million films. That was really our and so it feels real and real and intimate, and which has a bit to do with what you're seeing in Argentina. In Argentina, we did film in real location with real people, in real streets, and you feel it. In Rome, as we couldn't do this, we tried to make it build sets and then don't use them.
You had the collaboration of a fantastic DOP who is the same that shot City of God and has been working with you for quite a long time, Cesar Scialoni. Could you talk a little bit about his collaboration and input in the film?
Yeah, we work really close. Before we start shooting anything, we spend like 2 weeks doing meetings, I mean, on a table, scene by scene, thinking how we would approach a scene. Well, first of all, we talk about the concept of the film, the tone, the colors, and all that palette. And then we go scene by scene how we would approach each scene. So it's a very collaborative process. And on the day, I mean, sometimes some of the scenes it's Cesar who directs. You know, I'm just taking care of, because we know, I mean, how the cameras should move and how, but I leave it to him. So I'm taking care of the actors or what is around the actors, and I let for him to you know to frame or to. He has one thing that is really amazing. He cuts, he edits with camera movement. He's very good with handheld camera. So sometimes there's two actors talking. He knows the moment where he needs to go from this actor, this guy's talking, but he moves to the others just to get the reaction. And he has this feeling, which is very instinctive, I think. So anyway, it's a very jazzy way of working, because he also hates to repeat the same thing. So you shoot a scene, you want to make a second take, but he never repeats. Even if I ask him, he says, "Oh, let's do the same, just to get something different from the actor," but he can't. So he says that he has this theory that quantity is quality. So if he gives me more angles and more, it will be better for the cut. So sometimes it's quite annoying, because you really want that specific angle, just want the same thing, but just the line was wrong, but he doesn't give you. So I've been working with him for a long time. We worked like for 10, 12 years. He did City of God, The Constant Gardener. Then we start fighting too much, because he's very stubborn. And you ask him something and he won't give you. He said, "But I'm the director, fuck it." And so we stopped working for a while, and now we're back. And it's such a pleasure, because you're watching the scene and then you're surprised for something crazy that he does, you know. It's really great.
You were working with quite a sensitive subject. We know that the film is more focused on Pope Francis, who is a more progressive pope who wants to get closer to the people and so on. as opposed to Ratzinger, to Benedict, the Pope, who was very conservative and was involved in a number of scandals under his papacy, including cover-ups of pedophilia and so on. Did you ever have any brush with the Vatican about that? Did they have anything against the film, or did you have to self-censor at any point, not say everything that you wanted to say about Ratzinger, Benedict, and all the cover-ups that he was accused of during his papacy? It's just alluded at in the films, but not into any depth.
Yeah, well, actually, the film has had scenes that we would go further on child abuse, because of course this is an issue of the church. We couldn't make a film on the church without. But I remember watching one of the cuts where we would go a bit further, and what we realized is that if we kept that, the film would be a film about pedophilia and child abuse, and not the film that I wanted to make, which is about this relationship, about tolerance, and all the other things. The theme is so big that would really rob the whole, the whole film. It would become something else. So and this was not the Vatican at all. This was our option to be lighter. We are honest. We're talking about it. It's a big issue for Benedict, but that's not a film about it. It's about something else.
Right. We have a fantastic casting in the film. Jonathan Pryce and Anthony Hopkins, but not least an Argentinian actor who is becoming more and more famous abroad, Juan Minujín, who does the young Bergoglio. And he's an extraordinary actor. Perhaps he's been shadowed a little bit by the fame of the other two. Could you tell us a little bit more about how you chose the cast, and how precisely those two big names, and also Juan Minujín, for the roles that they took?
Yeah, of course. I knew Jonathan was going to be the Pope. So we had to find somebody who would look alike, and one doesn't look alike Jonathan, but was the one that was more. I mean, we had like 4 or 5 options that could. I mean, with the makeup, we could make it believable that he's the same person. But then I watched his films, and he's really. I mean, he goes from comedy, playing a gay, crazy guy, to a gangster. He has a series at Netflix called El Marginal, which he plays like a prisoner, and he's the lead. Anyway, I met him, and I know he had a range to make anything. But there's an interesting thing if you just watch the film, that you don't see him smiling a single time during Bergoglio's youth, and that's something that we changed during the process, because we learned. And that was one of the most intriguing things in the process for me. We went to Buenos Aires, and we had meetings with people who lived with Bergoglio, or people who was his students or worked in his seminaries. And we had a consultant called Padre Otávio, who worked directly with Bergoglio for a long time, and all of them hated him. All of them would say that Bergoglio was the most unpleasant person that you can imagine. He would never smile. He would eat alone, always eating alone, and he had no friends. And it's so different from the Pope Francis that we know. I was so intrigued to know how can that be. I mean, even Juan, the actor who plays him, said that because he was quite known cardinal in Argentina, and he said that the general people didn't like him because he was so very strict, and then my question to everybody who I met who knew him was, what happened? When did he change? This guy Otávio, this priest, this priest said he was really nasty. He was a son of a bitch. He said that. But I respect him very much because, I mean, he was very hard with all of us in the seminary. But in the weekends, he would cook for us Saturday and Sunday. And on Friday, he would get all our clothes and he would wash my clothes. I mean, so he was, you don't want to be with him, but he was very committed to his beliefs, so he respected but didn't like me. Anyway, I asked him everybody, and Otávio said that on the day of the election, when he comes out of the balcony, he was watching me with all his friends, ex-colleagues of Bergoglio, and then Bergoglio comes out and said, "Buonasera." And he said that was the first time we saw him smiling. And he said, "Who's this guy?" And I say, "What happened?" And he said, I'm a faithful man, so I believe that in the right moment when he was elected, the Holy Ghost came and transformed him. Because, and everybody had the same feeling, nobody recognized him. Then a friend of him, closer to him, told, this is the only one that gave a different version. Yeah, he said that 2 years before he became Pope, he started feeling that he was very warm, he was, I mean, kissing and I mean, being a different person. So he said, I think he started transforming 2 years before. Anyway, it's interesting, isn't it?
Very interesting.
And we used a lot this information in the film. First, one plays in a very strict faces and always like that. And this idea of change, I mean, it wasn't so important in the film, but we repeat this idea that change became like a theme in the film during the process.
And doubt.
That's something interesting. I mean, during the preparation of the film, how the film changes, how you really, if you read the first script and watch the film, it's so different. Because, I mean, you hear things, you see things, and the film changes. I mean, the amount of scenes that weren't scripted, it's enormous.
Really?
Yeah, like a pizza. There was no pizza in the script. There was no football in the end of the film. There was, but in the process,
the pizza is something, or at least the Fanta is something that the Pope really likes.
The Fanta is real. Yeah, it comes from the research. Yeah.
Yeah, so I wanted to.
I was just going to say, the Fanta, the thing that I learned is that his generation, Benedict's generation in Germany, they all drink Fanta because during the war, when they were kids, like teenagers, Coca-Cola was banished from Germany because it was from US. So Coca-Cola created Fanta to sell something in Germany. So it's a German soda. And all his generation was raised up drinking Fanta. It's interesting, because of the war.
Oh, wow.
Those things that we learn.
Yeah,
right?
that's really positive for me. One thing that I'm sure everybody is constantly asking themselves when they watch the film is what is fact and what is fiction in this film? So has this conversation between the two popes ever happened? What they are saying to each other, is it based on any reality at all, or is it all invented? On the one hand, it sounds and feels so real because it matches the personality of these two popes so well. At the same time, we know that this is a fiction film. Could you let us into the secret of what is really true about their conversations, or the content of what they say and what's not? And then I have another quote for this.
I think that's the brilliance of the script. Anthony McCartan, the writer, a very big research, and we know, I mean, it's in the records, that they met 3 times alone before Francis was elected. But of course, nobody was there, nobody knows what they said to each other. What Anthony did was he watched it, I mean, he read the books that both of them have written, watched interviews or sermons that are published, and he took lines from books, from conversations, from interviews, and from both sides, and created dialogue. And that's so everything that they're saying at some point they said or they wrote, and there's no idea that doesn't come from them. We just don't know, and probably it never happened in this order, and it never happened in the garden, of course. but what they say is what they say. And all the little details in the film, it all comes from research, and that's like the Commissar Rex, which feels very stupid. Pope Benedict did watch this thing every week. He really liked it, like the Fanta thing, or all this little, and the obsession of food that Pope Francis has. He really likes to eat, and he's always dealing with his weight. Anyway, all these little things are real.
Right. So together with that, there comes some drops of jokes and interesting things that these two characters do. For example, we were talking just now about Anthony Hopkins playing the piano and playing really well, and there being no cuts between his face and the hands, so it seems that he is the one actually playing the piano. So you've told me that he is.
He's a concertist. He played with orchestra already, and he lied to us as well, because in the script it says that he was going to play Mozart, and on the day he said, instead of Mozart, I want to play Smetana. I said, okay, play Smetana. I don't care, and so he played the Smetana, the lullaby. And then we tried to find the music to get the rights and all that. And we found out that he composed the music himself. It was, he lied to us, to everybody. Yeah. The other film, a film that I made called 360, he was in the film, and he composed 2 musics for the film. He composed, recorded it, sent me, and I used. He's really a clever guy and good musician.
One very interesting feature of the film is the temporal structure. So the film, you can't talk about flashbacks because the film is constantly zigzagging back and forth. So it starts in 2005, I think, jumps to 2012, goes back to Buenos Aires in 1956, then to 1982, then to 1998, then back to 2012. So was that an organization that was already in the script, or is it something that was born out of the making of the film and then was organized on the editing table?
It was more transformed in the editing. Actually, I have this, I tend to shoot material so I can start making the film when I'm in the cutting room. And for this film, I had the chance to work with a brilliant editor. First time, it's his first big film, called Fernando Meirelles, and I'm asking Lucia to bring him here because he's really brilliant. And he thinks in a different way. I mean, he really doesn't think linear. The script, if you read the first script, you had the first meeting, and then we would cut to Argentina, and it would become a different film. For 40 minutes, you would be in Argentina, and then we'd come back to this film, and then back to Argentina. And I liked that structure very much, and we cut the film this way. But then we felt that the relationship between the two actors was so strong that when we were in Argentina, very good scenes, very good actors, as you've seen, but we wanted to keep going with the conversation. So we start mixing things. So the final shape of the film was really, because we watched it and we felt it wasn't working, and even sometimes, I mean, they're talking and you have a cut. This is something that Stutz likes a lot. He cuts a flash forward, so you don't understand the image much, then you come back to them, and then a second time, and then a third time, and you're in a different scene. He does that, like he announces what's coming. I don't know if you pay attention, but he does it very often, and it's really, really interesting. And there's another experiment of editing that the first cut was much more radical, and I have to say I like better than what we finally have, which is some of the scenes we shot twice on purpose. So let's see. Well, here in this cut you've seen, we kept 2 moments of that. When young Bergoglio goes to the mission to ask them to shut down the mission, we shot the scene in a space which is outside, and then we went inside the little chapel and we shot exactly the same scene. And we cut from one to the other, like no continuity at all. But because the dialogue and the emotional drive is so strong, we really intercut, and there's people who doesn't realize that we're cutting from. And we shot both scenes in a very different way. Outside is more classical, shot reversed, and inside is handheld, and we mixed, and it works. There's another moment when Benedict is walking in the Sistine Chapel. He has the machine, the watch asking, this is something invented. The machine asks him to watch, so he's going to exercise in the Sistine Chapel. And he's talking to Bergoglio, and suddenly they just keep talking, but they're seated. We shot the same dialogues twice, and I love these jump cuts. And it doesn't jump because you keep the lines, but you change the. But yeah. The film was much more in that way, and then we made it more audience friendly, I'd say.
Was it an imposition by Netflix?
No, because when you do too much, it becomes too stylish. And there was a humanity and a simplicity in the relationship that I wanted to make a more experimental, more stylish. But then we would really hurt the intimacy, and so you just watch and you say, yeah, I love the cut, but it's hurting the relationship. So it's as you see, I mean, from the beginning to the end of the process of a film, I change it all the time. I think if I was a musician, I would be like a jazz musician. There are directors that like to storyboard. They know exactly the lenses and how they're gonna cut and how they're. I never storyboard. I'm really more like jazz. On the day you feel and somebody says something and you go there. I really and Cesar works with, as I was saying, grabbing images, and then on the cutting room we see what we can do. It's like an improvisation process that goes to the end.
That leads me into the musical choices of your film, both diegetic music and the extra-diegetic music, which is incredibly creative. You even interwoven some, music within the conversation between the two folks. For example, ABBA, that is quoted in Latin to start.
It's a good joke, huh?
Yes.
I love it.
So there is ABBA there, but there are tangos being played in the background.
The ABBA, just to say, the ABBA is because of that line. The music that plays is that the lyrics is the poem that says, Friday night, the lights are low. Anybody, we're looking for the guy. Anybody could be that guy. It's the cardinals. Anybody could be the pope. That was the, That's why I use it.
He's doing the work that us critics should be doing about this film. He's already giving all the keys to it. But there's also the scene with the Beatles and the Abbey Road and the thing about quoting the Beatles and do you know the Beatles? You don't know, because we know that there was a point when John Lennon said, I am more famous than Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
So is that what you were trying to no?
No, we thought about that.
More famous than the Beatles.
Yeah. That's what Benedict says. I should be honored because the Beatles were there. He is the Pope. Yeah. And then we used the Beatles, Blackbird, which is a beautiful, I love that moment, very tender.
What about the football? Is Bergoglio so keen on football as you show in the film?
Yeah, it seems that he was really a big fan of San Lorenzo, but we were told that now he doesn't watch football anymore. He doesn't watch TV, he doesn't want to waste time. I think he has no time. It's really being a martyr, as Johnson says, being a pope is being a martyr. You don't have your life, you're gone. Not even your name. It's really terrible.
Just to finalize my part here, that booking the flight on the phone to Lampedusa, and we have somebody there who comes from Italy. But did he really try to do that? You were telling me something.
He did. It's crazy, but of course not with this kind of dialogue and not with an operated. We add a bit of humor. But on the first day when he was elected, next day, first thing he done went to the hotel where he was staying because he wanted to pay the bill and make his. People said, "No, we can do this for you," but he went there and you see this in news and everything. And he did try to book a flight to Lampedusa because he was, it was exactly in the crisis of there was a boat that was trying to get to Lampedusa and couldn't, and so he wanted to be there, but of course nobody let him.
So he ended up going, but with
you saw, what we see the boats, and this is him going, but he did try to to book a flight. Yeah.
So. Okay, so I think I'll now make room first for us to watch some cutouts of the film.
Not much, yeah.
No, it's not very much. And then hear you say a few words about them, and then open for questions of the audience. Okay, thank you.
I didn't find
Just a second. Any order? Any particular order?
no, whatever comes, I can. There's one that is not. Yeah, I'll see what I can.
Hitler first?
What's that?
Hitler?
Oh, yeah, the Hitler one is that because he had this joke. Everybody calls him Nazi, and in fact, Benedict he was part of the Nazi army, but when he was 14, and he stayed there for 8 months, and he left. He escaped because he couldn't cope with that, and he was he hid himself in a library and hide himself in books, as he says in the line. We had the whole story told during his confession, but it was too long, we cut. Anyway, and then we had another reference of Hitler, but then we were asked to cut. I don't know why. By the way, Tony Hopkins brought this line. He wanted to this was not part of the script, but this was Tony's improvisation.
Very different. It's wonderful.
It's an old Berlin cabaret song. It was made famous on the radio before the war by a singer called Zara Leander. She was Hitler's favorite singer. She had a deep voice. She was Swedish.
Sorry, who was it?
Would you like some wine?
Well, the whole sequence at the piano is mostly Tony's improvisation. The joke on Abbey Road, this was scripted, but then he allowed himself to play Stockhausen and he wanted. He's very obsessed with Germany and with Nazism and all this period, and so he wanted to bring it. But then we were asked to cut.
So any reasons why you were asked to cut? Is it
I never understood.
Okay, so the second.
And that's hard because sometimes you have to accommodate, right? But I think film is an industry. You work with big group of people. You have to really to negotiate. You have to be a good negotiator. Sometimes you're good, sometimes you're bad.
Okay.
I think I'm too nice. I have this. I learned in this film that I'm too nice. I say yes too much, and so next film they'll see. No, whoever. No, not Netflix. Netflix was really great partners. But I mean, I'm really too nice. Yeah. Oh, this. Let me tell the story first. Just segura um pouquinho. I'll just tell what the scene is. During the process, I had a dinner in Rome. We were shooting. I had a dinner with the ambassador for the Vatican from Uruguay. He's a friend of our DOP, Cesar, and he's a very good friend of Bergoglio. So I wanted to try to see if I could pick something from Bergoglio or whatever I could use in the film. And he told me the story that as soon as Bergoglio was elected, the Vatican, they start doing this mezzaluna, which is a sort of croissant, Argentinian croissant. So the first time he saw that this was being produced in the kitchen of the Vatican, he went to the kitchen, asked for the whole tray of this thing, and walked out and took it to Benedict, because he wanted to please Benedict. They live like 200 meters one to the other. And I thought this story was so extraordinary to show that there was really a link between them, and that I shot. I wrote the script myself, and I were able to put in the schedule, and we shot, but it was too long and we cut. But here's the scene. At least you will see it. That's exactly how the ambassador told me, the story how he told me. This to mention that the process of making a film for me never stops.
Adesso ce li abbiamo. Quanti ne vuole?
Prendo tutti.
Certo.
We were gonna CGI him there. Sound?
Sorry to disturb you.
No, no. How are you, Holy Father?
Adjusting, Holy Father. Now, I want you to try this. Media lunas, a classic Argentinian trick. You right.
Oh, I'm replying to a journalist who believes that God is nonsense, and that the belief in God is the source of all evil. Yeah, he's asked me 30 highly intelligent questions. But do I have your permission to reply?
Silentium incarnatum.
Non te servum Dominus, conferrum tuum age. Yes.
You're at peace with God.
I am. I really am. I've done my work. This has no activities.
Okay, yeah, this was was an option for the end of the film. It was too long. The film had too many endings, so that's why we cut the scene. Because the film, you feel that it finishes when he's elected, and then there's we had this scene, and then there was the Lampedusa thing, and then the football was endless film. So we had to cut some endings, and in the end, we decided to actually finish the film in Lampedusa, and then the football, which would be third end with credit. So it's not the film anymore. It's credit.
I'm being patronized by what?
Oh yeah, here's another scene that we add to the script. It was an improvisation from Tony Hopkins, and I would like to keep this, but it went. It's his lines. What he's gonna say next.
Have to walk. Let's go. I'm being patronized by what? My daughter gave it to me. It monitors and counts my steps and monitors my heartbeat. He told me sitting with my daughter, he said, you know, you're in good shape for 86, but very bad shape for a human being. I hope that was a joke. You know, there's a tide of lies spreading over the world. The great lie that any belief is as good as any other. That truth is only a matter of opinion. Yeah. This is the great dictatorship of relativism, terminal uniqueness, intellectual elitist entitlement, political correctness, and atheistic human certainty. Certainty. See, Robespierre was certain, Karl Marx was certain, in my own country, Adolf Hitler was certain. He was absolutely certain. I was there. I witnessed the whole catastrophe. Certainty. Beware. Yeah. Beyond that, there is such a thing as eternal truth.
How do you know?
Because I don't know. How can I possibly know? I'm only human, limited. I cherish my ignorance, my doubt. But there is such a thing as eternal truth. And the church is its dwelling place, the house of the Lord.
Does it have to be an house of gold and marble? Riches?
Aye. You see my dilemma? You're very eloquent, you're very popular. If I allow you to resign, it will look like a protest.
This scene, actually, when I say it's an improvisation from Tony, it's a different kind of improvisation. Tony is very different from Jonathan, and this was I had to learn how to work with both of them, because while Jonathan he watched a lot of footage from the Pope and tried to get the feeling, this good uncle feeling that the Pope has, and so whatever line I would throw to him on the day, he would just be the Pope, because he's very he gets the feeling and can improvise, can do anything, his own character. But Tony is speaking about jazz musician and classical musician. He's the classic actor. He likes the lines, he likes the words, and he needs the words to do his job. So 5 months before we shoot, he asked us not to change a single word, which is very difficult for me, really difficult, because I keep changing on the day. And I said, it's going to be impossible. But well, in the end, we changed one or other thing. He allowed us to change, but he memorizes everything. He would send me very long emails about every line, and because this concept is Schopenhauer, this has not to do with Benedict, and he's very educated, and everything has to land. He needs to understand everything. So while he was studying and we're exchanging, I would love to publish his emails. It's really a class for actors, because how deep he goes to his acting. Even little details, like in this scene, the moment that he takes a fly from his eyebrow, it was there. I mean, we shot that in March. In December, he said, in that moment I will stop, I'll breathe, and I'll take a fly. Is that okay? I said, yeah, it's okay. Take a fly. Anyway, it's everything is planned. It's totally different from because Jonathan is there just getting what comes and replying, and Tony is completely in his own thing. I worked with another actress, Maria Flor, Brazilian actress, that had a scene with him in the other film, and she said it was the most difficult experience because he didn't give her anything. He was really acting, alone. Yeah. She said, I was in front of him, it was a dialogue, there was affection, and he wasn't giving me anything. He was just playing by himself. And now I saw a bit of how he works, but Jonathan didn't say that. Anyway, just to say that his improvisation came from one of those emails. He suggested if he could include all this speech on certainty. He's really obsessed with this idea that we're sure about everything, and that's our rule. That's the biggest problem of humankind. And so he wrote this dialogue, and we shot, but in the end, it was kept.
Is it politics again at the bottom of this cut?
No. Now this was because this sequence in the garden was much longer, and we trimmed from the beginning till the end. Was 3 times this length. So the scene would drag too much, and the film should move and process.
Here I seem to have noticed that process that you said. The sound continues, there is continuity in the dialogue, but they will be shot in completely different situations. So here we see 3 completely different situations in which this same dialogue continues.
Yeah, we had that a lot.
Yeah. So that's an example of that kind of cut that you were talking
Exactly,
about.
yeah.
so amazing. Right, it's time for us to take questions from the floor. So I'll be here receiving volunteers and hands up. Yes, please.
Hello. I really enjoyed the film. I thought it was very moving, very interesting. But one thing I noticed on the opening credits is financed by Netflix. Now,
Can you please speak?
Okay. I saw on the opening credits the film is financed by Netflix. That will mean there'll be very restricted release unless you are a subscriber to Netflix. And obviously you had a wonderful sound mix in the film, and that will be lost if you're watching it on an iPad or an iPhone or even on a television.
Tell me about it.
But I wonder how much influence now Netflix has on the financing of films, and how difficult it is to make a film without organizations such as Netflix or Amazon or other streaming services having to be involved.
No, I think from my experience, first of all, it was a great experience. I never had, I mentioned here some negotiation of scenes, but this happened with Netflix was much, much less than I had with other films that I've done for studios. They're much lighter. They're much more experimental. I mean, a film like Roma would never be, as we know, would never be shot anywhere. And even this film, if this was a studio film, would be, the budget would be the half, so it would be a very different film. I had freedom. They participate in the development of the script, sending notes, and really intelligent people. They really helped the film, I think. And then in the cut, for my feeling was a bit too much. I wish I didn't say yes to some of the changes proposed, but it was a real, genuine collaboration process. It was really, really good. Of course, I would love people to watch it on a big screen. And we're going now to 29 festivals, and then they're now doing a 3 weeks release, not more, 2, it's 3, it's better. And then it goes to the platform, but keeps on the screens. Roma, they released in end of November. Until 2 weeks ago, it was still like in 60 screens playing around the world. So, they're inventing a new way for the business, and they're seeing that theatrical and platform, they can live together, The problem, yesterday I had lunch with the guy, the Netflix guy, with Reed, and dinner by chance. And he said the problem, he would like to do more theatrical, is that the exhibitors don't want to show his films. So for every time they want to a theatrical release, they have to find theaters, private theaters, small chains, because nobody wants to. But it's not a question of we like it or not, this is good, this is how it is. That's how it is, and that's how it's going to be. So let's embrace it.
I'm Barney, I'm studying for Film A-Level at the moment. Just had a question about your use of handheld camera, or the DOP's decision to use handheld camera. I presume it's for more intimacy, like the audience is there, but I just wanted if you had a more comment on why handheld shot was chosen over a more typical standard shot of just a mid shot, like you used in the initial conversation between the Pope and the Portfolio, and it was a symmetrical shot in the garden, but then at a table, and that was quite different to the handheld shot, and it was used much more frequently further on in the film, and I was just wondering if there was more purpose to that than just to convey intimacy.
Yeah, what we thought, but we didn't follow what we agreed actually, is that a Benedict world would be more, as you said, more steady, long shots. He would be always small in the frame, symmetrical, and Bergoglio's world would be more handheld, loose, improvised, and so we start the film like that. But then at some point, we thought for the intimacy, the very big, long shots and steady wasn't working too much. So we start using more handheld and as I was saying, Cesare, the handheld is really good because he finds the angle, the right. He's watching the film. He's not just filming, you know, and he feels free to move and I think the energy, you get the energy.
So he's the actual camera operator.
Cesar.
Cesar.
Yeah,
He
he's
doesn't
yeah.
have his assistants
No,
to
yeah.
do
Well, we
the job.
always had like a second or sometimes a third camera doing like a wide angle or covering something, but I mean the film could be cut only with his camera.
Right. Okay.
Does he pull his own focus?
Yeah, sometimes yes, sometimes if you're in a very complicated space, he does it, and it's quite annoying because when you're cutting, there's great performances but out of focus. Lots of we lose a lot of very good performances. But on the other hand, you get angles or you get a movement and when there's space enough, so there's somebody helping him.
Hi.
Your name?
My name's Emma. I'm studying acting, writing and directing at the University of West London. I've infiltrated your university. I was just wondering, because I know the screenplay was originally a play written by the same person, and I was wondering if you read the play and if that influenced your directing, or if you just took the screenplay and...
No, I read the play because they sent me the play and asking me if I was interested in adapting that. And the dialogues were so good that I said, yes, let's see. And so Anthony adapted and it was a very good script. But the script, if you read, as I was saying, if you read the script and watch the film, they're quite different because, I mean, everybody, we change lines, we invents, and Anthony is, one of the best partners, writers that I had, because he really doesn't. Some writers get upset that you're changing his lines or changing film or creating scenes that wasn't scripted, but Anthony really he responds well. He likes and he said, "Hey, go ahead, go." So it's very good. We became good friends.
Just two very quick things. The one thing is.
Name?
Oh, sorry, I'm Paula Masti, and I used to work here at university as a Dante scholar. I've now moved somewhere else, but I was member of the CFAC, so very dear to me. So thank you very much for doing, these very great, very grateful to be here for such an event. Just two things very briefly. One of the things that I felt when you talked to us today was that you are obviously sympathetic with the figure of Bergoglio, and then when I watched the film with this, this thing in mind, I kind of thought that the film does something else. I was expecting a little bit of bias, if you want, towards the figure of Pope Francis. Instead, I thought it was a very, very different film that made us look at Ratzinger in different ways. So I was wondering whether this, the film changed your way of thinking about, this conservative Pope. I mean, you just said that even in the way you shot the film, you kind of changed, from the rigid to the fluid of the handheld camera. So that's my first question. The second question, sorry if I ask two, is how did you at any point deal obviously with Fellini, being in Rome, being in the Vatican, that big shot of, all the big shots of the square, all the cardinals from 8.5 to Dolce Vita, all that kind of, imagery that is in the past, and I think in your own memory as a filmmaker. So.
Yeah. Well, Ratzinger, as I said, the film in the beginning was a film on Pope Francis, and when I first read the script, it was very clear. We have the good guy, the good Pope, and the bad Pope, and then Tony came on board, Hopkins, and he had read a lot about Benedict, And of course, with my research as well, I start understanding Benedict better. Because at the beginning he was just a Nazi guy. And then I learned he's not. He's really a very serious intellectual. And he has a point. I mean, he thinks that, he believes like all the traditionalists, that the church is an institution to link us to God, to something. So if you're just dealing with everyday life, with immigrants or whatever, you're losing the purpose of the church. And of course there's a huge, amount of written books about it, but that's the bottom line. And he has a point. I mean, I read some of this Veritas in Caritas that we mentioned in the end. It's nice, it's about love. It's really... So what I'm saying is that during the process, some gray areas start to, and I realized that it wouldn't be a good film. It was, the black and white, the good and the bad. And then Tony came on board, and he really likes, he prefers Benedict. And he has such a charisma. So he brought his charisma to the character, and which the Pope has none, but Tony has. So I think he helped Benedict a lot. But it's always a process. That's my... Now the way I'm repeating this because it's really, I believe that. The way I approach a film, I have a script and I have these actors in this place, let's see what... I'm not there to make that film. I'm see what can I do with all that. And during the process, I allowed myself to change and to find different... and I think this keeps me alive. If I just go there to play what is written or to do my frames that I draw, it's not funny. I'm just working. And if I don't know exactly what I want, I have to be something. It needs to be alive inside. You have to be really alive, so you understand, you feel it, and you take directions. That's how. And the second question was. The Fellini, yeah, we built our Sistine Chapel in Cinecittà, which was next to the studio where Fellini, and there was always tourists coming to visit our neighbor because it was Fellini's studio. So I was completely surrounded by this Fellini feeling. And
I think the next one is this gentleman. Is you?
My name is Andrea. I'm a PhD student here in Reading, studying sustainable and resilient food systems. And Fernando, sensacional, thank you very much for not only the film, but this moment here. And my question is trying to relate this, what we do in academia, mainly research-oriented, and how you as a filmmaker can talk a bit about how to increase the impact or the outreach of research, especially now you showed on your film some scenes about Argentina military dictatorship, now in Brazil. Well, let's say that our president's not very pro-facts in some aspects. So how to not only increase the reliability, but also you as a filmmaker, how to, if you can elaborate a bit on how improve the transactional facts into more public dialogues.
But transactional facts or not, sorry.
I mean, mainly the research outreach, how to implement, how to be able to improve this in our context in Brazil, but also in general, if I put some thoughts about it.
But just a bit of Portuguese here. Eu não entendi exatamente a pesquisa sobre o quê?
É o impacto social?
Ah, entendi, desculpa, sorry, a bit of Portuguese. Yeah. No, I'm very, I think all my films, if I watch from, I didn't do much, but I did some. And they're all, in the end of the day, they're all about social difference and injustice. And it was funny, I was once in an interview with a Japanese journalist in Tokyo, and he asked me, why are you keep doing the same film? Because my first film was about maids, Brazilian maids, which is about, in the same space, in the same house, it's like two different species, And then I shot City of God, which is about Brazilian society, a part of Brazilian society that is invisible. And then The Constant Gardener, that's when he asked me, it's about the same thing in the world. You have the developed world using Africa as guinea pigs, and it's the same. And in this film, again, because that's Pope Francis' agenda, I think, I mean, the Japanese guy taught me that this is really an obsession. I really can't cope with it. You know, I don't understand why there's invisible people. Why? So yeah, so it's something that, and my films try to yeah, go around that. I mean, I never did a militant film. I'm not a militant, but this issue is really present in this, and now more than that, I think environment is becoming my obsession. Climate and environment, you see.
I think there is, yeah, at the back there, yes.
I'm James, I do a Masters in Film, and we wanted to know mostly about the way that you managed to combine quite comic elements in the film and very somber moments as well. I'm mostly intrigued in whether or not that was due to the actors themselves, or do you think it was the script that did it? Because it was very clear when moments were comic and somber, but they blended quite well together, and whether it was the actors or the script you think were mostly responsible.
Yeah, there was some very good jokes in the script, like the German joke, and there's quite a few. And when I was reading the script, I really liked it because, as you said, it's very serious issue, and you're interested in what they're saying. And then comes a joke, and it's like a click, put you again inside the film. I don't know. I really reading it, I thought it was really working, so I ended up creating new jokes. I thought this would be a very good mood for the film, make it very light, very human, and joke is a good thing to make it feel human. So the pizza, as I was saying, the pizza wasn't scripted. There's a lot of little details and small jokes that I tried to push in, because I felt it would work just reading. It would be a very boring film if there was no joke, right? Just two old men talking about religion. I mean, that's not very.
Whether they stand up.
Hi, thank you for coming, first of all. I really enjoyed the film. My name is Martin, I do a BA in theater. I'm actually Argentinian, so the film struck a really nice chord with me. Thank you for that. I was going to ask you about the underlying theme of Nazism, which you brought up previously, and the incorrect association that it has with Pope Benedict. And sort of asking about why you chose to blend it with what seemed like real-life footage after his election by the bus, where the guy says, "Oh, I know Ratzinger, the guy's a Nazi," or in the bar in Italy with Pope Francis and the Argentinian fan, where he says, "Que se bendiga solo ese Nazi, may he bless himself," the Nazi. And then the iteration of Bella Ciao that you used as the soundtrack, and just how far you went to create that as an underlying theme in the film.
Yeah, well, this presence of the Nazi, it's how he's perceived. I mean, a lot of people, because he had this moment in his youth, he was part of the army, Nazi army. It's really part of the culture. If you talk about Benedict, people will say that. So we're just reflecting the general impression that a lot of people has. And you're mentioning the what is it? The Bella Ciao. Yeah, I mean, we thought it would work well. The idea of the Bella Ciao with Bergoglio, like a theme for Bergoglio. So that's why we used. And well, there was something else that you mentioned. The real footage of. Yeah. Oh, that sequence that we see the guy calling him Nazi actually was just to show what really happened. I mean, in the beginning when he was elected, everybody was very happy, but in 2-3 years there was already complaints, and so just to show that in that period of time he really went, his popularity went down. And
I'm in my second year studying film. Firstly, I want to say, City of God was one of the first films at A level I studied, and it's a real honour to be able to talk to you here and watch one of your films with you.
Thanks.
But yes, there's a message within the film of this build bridges and break walls.
This is a quote from Pope Francis, by the way. Build bridges, not wall. You see it everywhere. It's his line, yeah.
Do you feel an obligation to be political in your films? I know you mentioned as well the climate crisis, ideas around that. Do you feel, yeah, an obligation to be political in?
No, I don't see, I don't feel obligated to be political. But I think we're really, as I was saying in the beginning, we're really in a very odd moment in our history. And I mean, when they say that they're Extinction Rebellion, they're right, because we're really facing extinction. And it's not very, I mean, it's very plausible if it happens. So I think there's nothing more important than trying to change. And the changes we need are political. Especially now, climate became my obsession. And to deal with the climate crisis, it's a political thing. Because all the decisions that need to be taken, like replace the source of energy, and it's all political decisions. I mean, we can not use plastic, we can ride bikes, we can do all of that, but it won't work. The decision that really matters, which is carbon taxes and all that, it needs to come from up. So it's voting. But anyway, I'm not going to do a speech here, but I'm being more political than ever, because I think we have to. Now we really need to take care. I have grandsons, and I'm very sorry about their future.
Good. Thank you so much for giving us your time tonight. It's been fantastic. My name's Indy, and I do some sort of films for charities and things like that. The emotional integrity of the film was phenomenal, and the dynamic between the two, and the story in their character of just the emotional intensity was phenomenal. And I guess for me, my question is about, you mentioned it a few times, this thing of process, and I almost want to draw out a little bit more about your thinking, your feeling in terms of process and creating this story out of process. Almost, how do you know that you're ready to start that improvisation process? It sounds a little bit like for you a film is a discovery as you're going, and so how do you know that there's now something to discover? Because it could be that you go out and you start improvising and you find, well, there wasn't anything there, and we've wasted an awful lot of money and time. So how do you know, yeah, we're good now, and a bit more about that process, I guess, and what that means to you? Yeah.
I don't know. It's very intuitive, I guess. Of course, I mean, I say I try to create the film on the day, but it's not true. I'm lying, because I have a very solid script, and I have very solid actors, amazing sets, great photographer. So I mean, it can't get wrong. I can improve it, but I mean, if I just do what I have to do, it will be okay. I mean, it's so. The first thing is you have to be covered, so there won't be any disaster, because, right, you have everything around. But then on the day, I think it's in intuition. Actually, we have this intuition thing that we don't care about our intuition. We really like to control things. We like our minds, our brain, to explain things, to understand things, methods, and how it works. But I think we're 70% intuition. We feel things. So I really cherish my intuition. So if I see something, like a take, you shoot a take and the actor says the line, oh, well, with Anthony Hopkins saying the line is great, but why am I asking him to do a second one, you know? If something tells me that he might do something, you know, and I go for it, but I can't explain. It's not very logic. It's really, maybe, yeah, jazz again. Yeah, why do you feel it? You feel it. That's how yeah. Everybody makes fun of me because when I'm it's so ridiculous. They taking photographs and all. When I'm watching the monitor when shooting, I tend to imitate the actor, and I can't help myself. I'm really like it's very ridiculous. It's really the photos are terrible, but I really try to get in. You know, it's.
I have a comment actually. I can't hold that because I have my mic here. There was Carlos Heisenberg who died in this film, who could say, oh, this is a cinematic animal. He would call those filmmakers who have a sense the camera cannot go here, it has to go there. You know, the actor is not saying it properly. I don't want to explain, but
Yeah.
I just know that it's not.
Yeah, there's some. Yeah.
So there is, I think it's this instinct of knowing exactly how it's going to work.
Yeah.
Or not. Sorry about that.
And you have to believe in your instinct, right? If you don't like it, you don't like it. It's all exactly how it was planned, but there's something wrong. So you try different thing. Change the camera, change the lines, cut the scene. I do this a lot. I mean, sometimes I'm shooting something and it's not working, and then I just give up. I say I'm going to cut the scene from the film and that's it. And I do this because if I don't find the solution, I just give up.
And don't people get resentful with you sometimes, saying, "Oh, I had prepared all that and it was nice"?
No, I lie. I say, "Oh, it's very good. That take was very good. Let's use it and let's move on." And then I don't use it.
That's the truth.
Yeah, just lie.
Don't you students try to imitate this, please. Such a waste of money.
Okay, good evening. My name is Michiel. I'm an artist and art tutor here. Thank you for being open and not black and white. I find it very interesting how the popes were, well, both their faces were shown, and also, well, Francis, the more popular one, also he has a dark side that we see in the movie. But you mentioned earlier tonight that when you were doing research that it turned out that nobody in Argentina liked him. I also read the book.
Nobody, some people, yeah.
A lot of people didn't like him. I also read the book, The Dictator Pope, and they say that the smile that the Pope has is an acted smile, that he still is a dictator behind the scenes. Have you considered that as well, or is that denied, that you on purpose not include that kind of a picture of the Pope?
No, yeah, I heard some people saying that he's still very authoritarian. He chooses a small group of people. This will be his friends, and he will trust this group, and he really have no relationship with who's outside his personal group. I heard that, and maybe this is the way he works. But I think when he's smiling to people and making jokes, it's genuine. I believe he's. I can feel this warmth. Don't you? I don't know, but he is very authoritarian. Everybody complains. Thank God he is.
Hi there. I'm Adam. I'm a lecturer in film here. We met briefly earlier. Yeah, I just had a question about. It seems like sort of largely sort of out of necessity. This was probably a project that was very male heavy. Those rooms were just full of men. Obviously, it's a film largely dominated by two men. It sounds like in the research and pre-production process, a lot of your conversations when you were maybe trying to find people who would have sort of had contact or stories about these people. A lot of those, I imagine, probably would have been men. Did that ever feel strange? Did it feel like a kind of did that sort of affect the atmosphere of the film or the project at all? Did it feel?
It's very male. That's the.
Yeah. Because obviously, sort of the setting means that it's quite a sort of male-heavy presence there, and I didn't know if that's sort of because obviously in other films you've done, you've worked with sort of actresses who've had a really strong sort of presence in the work, and I just wondered if it kind of if it changed the sort of process or the atmosphere or the tone of the project for you.
Because there's no women, no characters for women. That's what it's saying. So. No,
in the film, but I also wondered if it sort of bled into the sort of research sort of phase of it as well, that sort of a lot of the conversations you would have had with people.
Yeah, well, this world, this is something that we've spoken about it with lots of people, that this world, the church is very, it's a male world. There's no, the women, even here, we see just the nuns, the few characters that are females, they're just serving the popes. It's really... when they're watching the match, there's some nuns and they go go, and that's how the church treats women. And we thought about that, and we thought about who could be a female character. Then we had Esther. Esther had much more lines, was a bigger part, but then we trimmed a lot Argentina, but was the only female in the film. with some voice, because I mean the church is really, it's a male world. Not anymore. Now last week they were discussing, including women to say mass. I mean they're really starting to open. In 200 years they will.
So, Cecilia from University of Westminster and documentary filmmaker. Sorry, my question skipped. I wanted to ask you about accuracy, because although there might be something like papal genre, but it definitely is a biopic or part of a biopic, because it traces a specific part of their story. And a lot of the themes that people talk about and discuss in biopics is accuracy. So how important was it for you? And you talked a little bit about research. I wanted to know a little bit more behind the scenes, how much research was put in and how did you approach it, and how many people did you have in your team to do research? A little bit more on that. Thank you.
Yeah, well, actually the research was done before. I think who done the biggest research was Anthony McCarthy, all the lines, and to understand both of them and to create a script. My research was more to see how I could approach the two characters. So what I did was talking to priests and to people who know both of them, and of course I read a lot about them. I watched interviews, but the content really was more Anthony. And then we had the help of another British writer called Frank Cotter-Boyce. He wrote 24-Hour Party People. He's really religious. He spends his holidays in a religious some religious places, meditating, and he helped us a lot with insights on the Catholic Church and theology, and it's good because he's a writer, so he even wrote some lines, changed little things. It was really, really helpful.
Hi, my name is Geneva. I'm a PhD student here at the University of Reading. I really liked the movie. It was absolutely fantastic. What I was wondering about is that we see a lot of footage on the past of Francis, of Pope Francis, but we do not see any of Pope Benedict. I was just wondering about your process of that choice. Why not show the Nazi past of Benedict? Because I felt that showing the past of Pope Francis gave him a bit of redemption at the end, because he was not such a lovable guy, and then he became the sweet Pope, whereas we didn't see that from about Pope Benedict. We just see him as, like you said, good and bad Pope, and he was just the bad Pope, and at the end he renounced, but because his conscience, I'm guessing, was hitting too hard. I was just wondering, how did you make that choice of not showing the past of Pope Benedict? Was it because you like Pope Francis a bit more, or?
No, this actually was from the script. As I said before, this was a film on Pope Francis, and Benedict was just like a supporting character. So, but there was in the very first script, there was a scene that we see him as a boy running out of the army. There was an army facility, and he was running to the woods, and then we would see him in a library. That was all. But the film is really about, well, as I told you, the name of the film was The Pope, till 2 months ago.
Hi. Yes, please.
I'm Liam. I went to Sheffield to do biomedical science, but now I'm trying my luck in the film industry. My question is about my question is about your directing process with the actors. I sort of wondered really to what extent you had to shape these performances versus sort of leaving them to their own devices. I imagine it's quite different on this film to how it was on a film like City of God. To what extent did you have to sort of talk to them in between takes and direct them to something that you'd envisioned versus just letting them sort of get on with it? Research they've done themselves?
Yeah, what I learned with experience is that actor is really a difficult animal to deal with, because each one has a different approach. As I was telling you about the two of them, but every actor has a different approach to get to the part and to understand the character. So before I would start working, I really try to understand, and that's a question that I ask all the actors with whom I work with. How is your process? What do you do? How do you prepare yourself? Because I don't want to impose my way of. So some actors love to rehearse like endless weeks. Some actors hate to rehearse, and some actors are very good in the second, third take, and then they lose the thing. And some actors you have to keep going, and 30 take, they still want to go further. So it's really a matter of, you have to, as I was saying here, the just thing, you have to feel how each one works. And here there was a very tricky situation, and I found out in the beginning. It's this thing that Tony is very into himself. It's very hard, and I really fought hard to find a moment in which he would look to Jonathan. And I asked him, please, look at him, because I want some exchange. But he's really in his own world. So I thought it was going to be, but they came along with good things, that they came along very well. They became friends. And second day they was going out for dinner, and it really helped, because there was a real bond. Yeah, so it helped. But for them, you said, how did I prepare them? Yeah, you don't prepare Tony Hawkins. You don't prepare him, So all I said was let's try to make it very intimate, small. He's your neighbor. At some point, I asked him to take out the cap. He's not a pope. He's just a guy talking to other guy, and that's the only thing I would tell. When I felt was a bit, statement from this authority, I said, no, it's just you're just a man. It's the only thing I told him. And sometimes I would ask Tony to walk or to move like an old guy, because he's very strong, and sometimes it felt like he was 80 and not 88. So, but that was the only, and then let them do their thing.
You once told us about Ray Fiennes being incredibly perfectionist about himself in The Constant Gardener, and saying, no, I'm not happy with what I'm doing, let me try and do it again, blah, blah.
Quite annoying. Him and Rachel's the same. They don't want to stop shooting. It's really, really annoying, because you have like 15 excellent takes, and you're shooting the 21st, and they say, well, now we got it. And they say, no, now I got it. I know exactly what it is. Just one, please. Okay, let's do 22nd and 23rd and 24th, and he goes forever. And both of them loved it. Yes, let's do another one. They're crazy, yeah. But there are some other actors with whom I work with that are the opposite. They do first, second, and third. They say, it's gone. I can't do anything. That's what I have to give you. I lost it, everything. I can't give you anything else. And then, yeah, if it's not enough, it's not enough, because they think, it's.
What do you do in a situation like that? And if you're not happy with delivering?
No, when you're working with this high-level actors, they always deliver something. So you can always use the camera from behind, or cut the scene. Yeah. No, when they say that's my best, I believe that that's their best.
Hi, I'm Bella. I'm a
Oops, sorry.
I'm a third-year student studying film and theatre, and I was just wondering, because you're right, you are making a film about real-life people, and what kind of considerations you might have taken in the process in your representation of these people, and your own, and kind of like what kind of concerns and questions you had for your own perspectives, and how much of your own perspectives of these people do you want to put into the film, and also because you mentioned you're religious and this is a film in a religious context, whether or not it had any effect on how you wanted to represent your faith on screen.
Yeah, it's a balance, because we're talking about somebody who exists, who you can watch on YouTube, and we did that a lot. but at the same time you have to create a character that is consistent. So yeah, there's no one way to go. It's really a balance. I mean, this performance is great, but doesn't feel like Pope Francis or yeah. It's again, it's feeling how to balance. It's all about balance, isn't it? Music, anything in the film is right, finding the right balance too. How many jokes can I use without becoming a comedy? How many? And it's a feeling thing. And the other thing, what you said, there was another.
The other thing was just about, because it's a religious film.
About religion, yeah.
Yeah, and how.
Is it a religious film?
Well, there was more praying, people praying in the film, and I cut all that because I don't want it to feel like a film that you're inside a church watching a film. But it talks a lot about spirituality, and that's something I like. I like very much this idea of connecting, because I think that even who does yoga every morning has this feeling that sometimes you're connected, sometimes you're not connected, and is there something to connect? And anyway, so what they talk, I mean, when they talk about religion means religare, which means connecting, the word in Latin. And I think this applies to any religion or any spiritual system or practice that you can have.
Sorry, there was somebody ahead of me here. He's been, yeah. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Dominic. I've just finished a PhD here at Reading, and the PhD was about filmmaking practice, so it's wonderful to hear you talking about the detail and the process of making it. One thing that really intrigues me is the design of the film. You've mentioned building the Sistine Chapel in Cinecittà, which obviously piqued all our interest in how on earth you achieve that. Can you talk a bit more about how you work with your designer and the pressures within the production design?
Yeah, we couldn't use any facilities from the Vatican, so we had to recreate all the spaces we needed, the Summer Palace and the Sistine Chapel. We built the whole thing, perfect replica, beautiful. It was even the texture of the walls. They put a plaster and then they print with a sort, you know that kind of thing that when you're a kid you print, you put like tattoo. That's what they do. So we had the texture was the texture of a fresco, and then they come with those big screens and printed, and it feels amazing. Exactly like the texture is the same. The texture of the floor was the same. Our Sistine Chapel was 5 centimeters bigger than the actual one, so we had the biggest Sistine Chapel in the world. But besides that, was really perfect. And all the others we had to combine, sometimes several. It's very easy to find palaces in beautiful villas around Rome. So to recreate the spaces, we had sometimes to combine 2 or 3 different spaces, like the garden from one place, the entrance from another place, the room. But in Rome, and with a good production location scout, you can find anything.
And the Argentina sequences?
In Argentina, yeah, what happened in Argentina is that we had that scene in the slum where the police comes and arrests the 2 priests. That sequence was much longer, but we had to build all that, because today in Argentina there's a lot of shanty towns, but they're all buildings, 2, 3, 4 floors. So we had to build that thing. It's a set. Our designer is Mark Tildesley. He's a fantastic designer. He worked with us in the Constant Garden. Now he's doing the new Bond. He's working for 1.5 years and still shooting. Yeah, it's a nightmare.
Okay, you please.
My name is Maddie. I study film and theater here. Did you notice a notable difference or challenge working with actors who are performing in their non-native languages or languages that they weren't fluent in at all? And how did you adapt your directing style to that?
Yeah, I mean, if they're not fluent, they should play a character that is not fluent as well, right? It's very difficult to pretend that you speak a language. here what we did with Jonathan is, because of course he doesn't speak Spanish, but everybody's buying it. He is speaking. Hey, what do you think? You bought it, right? Because I read it in the press. People say, "Wow, he's such a good actor. He even speaks Spanish like in Argentina," but not. He's dubbed. What we did, he did learn all the lines in Spanish, and that was a big, because there's a lot of Spanish here, and he knew how to speak Spanish, but with a British accent. So we shot him. We cut the film with Jonathan talking, and then we tried to find a voice that could match and replace. But he's in fact speaking Spanish. But it's tricky. It's very tricky.
Okay.
And Tony Hopkins is terrible with languages. He
He
can say buongiorno. He can't. Yeah, we had to. He doesn't have much lines in Italian, in Latin. No, but he's really hopeless. It's terrible. We had to re-record him like 4 times. And the last time wasn't good, and he said, "That's it. I can't do better." Yeah. Oh, somebody. I mean, he needs to have some problem, right? He can't be perfect. But that's his yeah. Calcanhar de Aquiles, how's it going? Calcanhar de Aquiles.
Oh, Achilles tendon.
Achilles tendon, yeah.
Hi, my name.
No. I think it's the sorry about that.
Hi, I'm Mikey. I'm an art and film student here at Reading. I was just wondering how you dealt with like the pressure of tackling something of such enormity and so many millions of people. How you thought your film would affect them, and how the critical response has been, and how you deal with critical response as a director.
You mean the Catholic community?
Yeah, I was thinking the film being produced by Netflix probably means it won't be seen by as many people.
Won't be seen by more people, you mean?
By as many people, with the older generation that may be affected more by.
No, I think it's the opposite. Will be seen. What they say is that the film will be seen for 5 times more people than it would if it was a regular. Yeah, especially outside some big cities, people they don't go to the cinemas anymore. They watch on TV.
So how has the response been critically?
So far for the film?
The film is premiering here. So
Yeah,
remember that.
yeah. We premiered the film in Telluride last month. Then we went to Toronto, and last Sunday we showed here. Monday we showed here in London. The reviews are being amazing. Much better than our expectation. I think the film has still. Jonathan Pryce is, I mean, in all the reviews, is considered somebody for not to be nominated for awards, but to get awards, and so everybody's happy so far.
Okay, now it's you. Yeah, sorry about that.
Hi, my name is Rasheen. I study theatre here at the University of Reading. I was wondering, how far did your own personal experience of religion and the Catholic Church influence the decisions you made whilst you were directing and editing the film?
Yeah, I was born as Catholic. I used to go to church till I was 8, and then my parents, for some reason, stopped going to church, and I also stopped, and so I have no connection with Catholic Church, and I'm agnostic. I really don't. I understand the idea of cherishing God or something, but I don't have these beliefs. But I like the idea of and I believe there is some not a person looking at you that judging you or what like God is seeing, but there is like an order. The universe has an order. Maybe nature is my God, and. But this film made me think a lot about that, because I remember I was shooting in a church in Argentina where we have that confession scene when Bergoglio hear his call, and I saw a teenager. There was a little chapel in this church, and there was a teenager, like 16, praying, but he was so into it, really profound. And I started staring at him for a long time, and I was very moved by his faith. And I said, no, this guy, he's not faking. He's not, because there was nobody around. He's not pretending to. He's really feeling something. He's connecting to something that I'm not, that I can't. And that moment really touched me. And I think now I'm considering the possibility of something that I might not be able to reach, but might exist. I'm agnostic.
Sorry, yes, you please. And then you. Yeah, after this, you're the young man. Sorry, I don't know your names. I think we are coming close to a close, so I'll take another, perhaps.
And I'll be quick.
Yeah.
Short.
3 questions more? Yes.
Hi there. My name's Alex. You talk about being born a Catholic. I'm a lapsed film enthusiast, so I'm sort of coming back to it. I wanted to talk about Netflix. They seem to be doing some very interesting work with film. Roma last year, Scorsese's The Irishman, which is about to be released. And apparently no other big studio could get behind The Irishman, despite being Scorsese, De Niro, Pesci, etc., Pacino. What was it like working with Netflix? Did you find that they were open and letting you be free? And what's your prediction with how Netflix as a production company will work with future artists?
As I said, it was a very good relationship. They're very open and they're very rich, which helps. You can really, yeah, it's true. You have ideas and they support you. You want 5 cameras for the scene, let's have 5 cameras. It's really, that helps. And I'm not a very expensive director, but very open, very supportive, and I would work with them again. Actually, we're talking about the next project. And because now there's other platforms coming, getting bigger and bigger, like Amazon and AT&T, and I asked them what they're gonna do. They said we're gonna keep doing what we do, and they want to focus on they want to have very good relationship with directors, and well, with me they were able to. I hope I can become a partner, because they don't interfere in your film, and well, in the cut they did, but much less than I had in my other experience. So I think that's the way it's gonna be. We have to find our platform, and because independent cinema, of course, I love independent cinema, and I have an independent production in Brazil, and we do very small films. I have a distribution company called O2 Play, which is, we just distribute indie films, and but I think even for independent filmmakers, they'll end up selling their films to platform, because platform will be the way to watch films, right?
In favor of Netflix, I must say, they were very generous to lend the print of your film today without any cost. So I really need to thank Netflix here today for allowing this event to happen in the way that it's happening, because I have dealt with other production companies that wanted to charge huge fees and making it impossible due to the prices that they charge to show a film here. So at least this is something that we really need to acknowledge and thank them for allowing us to have this event here today. Yes, please.
I just wanted to add, so it appears that the showing films on the big screen seems to be one-offs, and it seems that showing them on smaller screens seems to be the mass way of getting the audience to see films.
My understanding is that this film will be launched in November
yeah, for 3 weeks in cinemas, and then I hope people who watch us at home watch in big screens, and I'll be very depressed when I see somebody watching on a phone. Very depressed, very. But in the other hand, there will be like, I don't know, 10 million, 9 million watching on a big screen, and that would be it if it was a theatrical release. But now 60 million people will watch the film. So you get something, even in a phone, maybe. It's a tricky one. Of course I don't, the sound is so good. If you watch it in an Atmos theater, like I did in London for the first time 2 days ago, it's amazing. It's amazing how it's good, and nobody will see it. Depressing.
Okay. I'm Robin. I'm from the art department doing a PhD in attention. And I just wanted to ask you, something that came out in the film again and again was this change, this process of change that we all go through. So I was just wanting to know about your process of coming from a very different discipline and how you have the sense of self-belief, courage, whatever it takes to move from one area to the other, and then to come up with these ideas for films and just have this belief in them that goes on and on to, really amazing films like this one today.
Yeah, what happens is that when you're cutting a film or preparing, and you're not satisfied and you don't like it, you have to like it. So you have to try everything. I learned to be really go to the limit when I was cutting The Constant Gardener, which was a linear story. It would start in the beginning and go blah, 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 to the end. And we cut the film, and it was the most boring film ever. No, it was really unwatchable. It's really, really boring. And I had this great editor, Claire Simpson. We watched it and said, Claire, what do we do? Because this is the end of our both careers. And she said, let's use my trick. I have done this before with Oliver Stone and others, and let's go for it. So we asked for another 3 or 4 weeks. And she said, what we're going to do here is we're going to strip the films to the bones, cut everything that is not the story. Let's get rid of everything. And that's the expression that's used, strip to the bones. And we will understand what our film is. So we got that 2 hours and 20 minutes film and became a 45 minutes episode for. And we understood the structure and we said, well, that's the story. So let's tell the story but in a different structure. So we started the film with something that was happening when Tessa is the character that dies. We decided to bring it to the beginning. And then we start working from that. Boom, this is a very emotional scene, so let's present a bit of the past, and we start mixing the scenes, because we knew exactly what was the structure. And in the end, we had like a 1 hour film, and then we said, well, yeah, we like this new structure, and then we start adding images that we liked, music that we liked, performance that we liked, and we fill it with But it was so brave, and we allowed us, as you said, 4 weeks of just experimenting. And I learned that we had to do that. And I'm not afraid of throwing away scenes that I like, or you have to. Because if you don't like it, nobody will, right?
Okay, one last question of somebody who hasn't asked questions yet. Okay, you please. Can you pass it to the back, please? Sitting next to the red cabinet. No. You. Didn't you have your hand up? No. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Hello, sorry, my name's Kelly. I'm doing English literature and film at this uni. My question was, have you got any advice for anybody that wants a career in film?
Good luck. Amen. Yeah, no, I think nowadays it's easier to start, because you can, when I started working with video, it was very complicated, because for you to test anything, any idea, you needed a camera, crew, it was expensive, equipment to cut. But now with phones, you can test things. So my only recommendation is you have to shoot, cut, shoot, cut, shoot, cut, shoot. This is it's like sports. You have to train. At least that's how I found out my own voice. How do I tell stories? This whole thing about feeling and testing, and I learned that that's how I work, because I did it so many times, and that's the best way the best results I get. So you have to shoot. I learned here today that you can make an essay instead of writing an essay in university. You can shoot an essay and cut an essay. I had never heard about that. I thought it was brilliant. So that would be my first. Never write anything else here in the university. Just shoot and cut. It's true. It's brilliant. It's a great way to learn.
There is one thing that was revealed in a film that we made that included the work of Fernando Meirelles passages, where you talk a lot about the influence of literature in your work and how much, perhaps all of your films have been based on literary work to start with, City of God.
Yeah, besides this one, yeah.
And theatre too.
Theatre, yeah.
So there is a strong connection with literature. So do you read a lot and do you draw a lot from those books that you read?
Yeah, I read a lot, maybe, yeah. And then you like the book and you want to adapt. And but reading is very nice because it gives you the what is behind the image, right? The subjective story. And that helps me a lot. Trying to understand, what's behind. What am I saying here?
I think we have exploited Fernando Meirelles as much as we could. And I feel sorry for him because he must be exhausted.
No, it's good. It's a pleasure.
And I mean, I can't express how grateful we are for having you here today, for discussing this film, for giving us the opportunity to see a British premiere of your film here at the University of Reading, and answering so patiently the questions that we had for you. I'm sure all of us were very nervous asking our questions and afraid of making mistakes, but it was...
Mistakes are good, yeah.
Fun, he's in favor of mistakes, this is great. And so it was a wonderful interaction, and you're always welcome to the University of Reading, and let's find another opportunity to have you here.
Thank you.
Wishes of success to the two popes and to your future ventures.
Thank you very much. Thank you.